Your calf muscle has an ejection fraction, the same way your heart does. And in a study of nearly 6,000 people, the ones whose calves pumped the weakest were more than twice as likely to die in the years that followed. Here is what almost no one explains after 60. The reason your feet are cold at night and your ankles swell up by dinner usually is not a heart problem at all. It is a second pump, hidden down in your lower leg that has quietly switched off. And the most common piece of advice you will ever hear for it, just walk more, barely turns it back on. So you can walk every single day and still sit down at night with ice-cold feet. In the next few minutes, I'm going to show you the 5 movements that switch that second pump back on, and the single one, if you only ever do one, that matters most. Let me tell you where I am coming from, because it changes how you should hear all of this. I work in emergency medicine, and the reason poor leg circulation is not something I take lightly is that I have seen where it ends when nobody catches it early. I have seen small sores on the foot that would not heal turn into deep infections. I have seen people lose toes, and in the worst cases, part of a foot, from something that started as nothing more than cold feet and a little swelling years earlier. So when I tell you this is worth understanding properly, I am not trying to frighten you. I am telling you what the late stage actually looks like, so you never have to meet it. Here is the part that should get your attention. The Centers for Disease Control estimates that about 6.5 million Americans over the age of 40 have peripheral artery disease. That is a narrowing of the arteries that feed your legs. And this is the number that worries me most. Up to 4 in 10 of those people feel no leg pain at all. No cramp, no obvious warning. Which means the swelling, the coldness, the heaviness, those quiet signs are often the only thing the body gives you before the problem is advanced. Poor circulation after 60 is also one of the earliest signals that the heart and the arteries everywhere else are under strain. So this is not just about your feet. It is a window into the whole system. And the good news, the genuinely good news, is that the fix does not depend on your step count. It comes down to one muscle most people never think about even once. That muscle is your calf. The medical name for it is the calf muscle pump. Plenty of people know it by a better nickname, your second heart. That is not a cute figure of speech. Every time your calf tightens, it clamps down on the deep veins threaded through your lower leg and forces a slug of blood up the pipe, fighting gravity the whole way, toward your chest. Tiny one-way valves inside those veins snap shut behind each push, so nothing falls back down. That is the pump. And here is what makes it more than a metaphor. In 2024, researchers at the Mayo Clinic published a study of 5,913 patients in Mayo Clinic proceedings. They measured exactly how well each person's calf pump emptied the blood out of the lower leg, an actual ejection fraction, just like the one cardiologists measure for your heart. A healthy calf pump clears at least half the blood with each squeeze. Think about what that means. Half of everything pooled in your lower leg gone with a single contraction and sent north. And the people whose pumps had fallen below that, whose calves cleared the least, had a clearly higher risk of dying in the years that followed. It climbed step by step. The weaker the pump, the higher the risk, and in the weakest group it was more than double. Your calf really does behave like a second heart, and a weak one shows up in the mortality numbers the same place a weak heart does. So what happens to that pump after 60? 3 things at once. The vein walls get weaker and stretchier. Those little one-way valves, the ones that are supposed to snap shut and hold the blood up, wear out with age and start to leak. So some blood slips back down after every push. And the calf muscle itself shrinks and loses power, especially if you spend most of your day sitting, which most of us do. And it is not only sitting at a desk. The evening in the recliner counts. Crossing your legs for an hour counts. Any long stretch where the calf is still, blood is settling. You are not alone in this, by the way. More than 50 million Americans have some degree of chronic venous insufficiency, the medical name for veins that no longer move blood the way they should. So the pump slows. And a slow pump means blood backs up and sits at the ankle instead of climbing out. More swelling. Colder toes. The skin down there starved of the oxygen it needs, and here is the cruel part, the loop it sets up. A weaker pump makes moving harder, and moving less weakens the pump even further. It is a slow spiral downward, and a lot of people are somewhere on it right now without knowing it. Now, before I show you how to reverse that spiral, I have to clear up the single biggest misunderstanding, because it is the reason so many people work hard and get nowhere. Walking runs on momentum. You fall forward and catch yourself over and over, and honestly, your calf barely gets a full squeeze out of any single step. It is a light, brief contraction, then release. That is not enough to fully empty those deep veins. And here is the part that surprises people the most. The two things almost everyone is told to do, wear compression socks and put your feet up at night, do not fix the pump either. They are passive. Compression squeezes from the outside, and elevation lets gravity help for a while, and both can absolutely make your legs feel better. But neither one makes the muscle contract. Only movement does that. Compression and elevation manage the symptom. The pump is the only thing that fixes the cause. So keep the socks if they help, but understand they are not the engine, your calf is. Now, I know exactly what some of you are thinking right now. I already walk every day. I get my 8,000 or 10,000 steps. Isn't that enough? And I want to answer that head on because it is the most reasonable question in the world, and getting it wrong is what keeps people stuck. Walking is genuinely good for you, for your heart, your blood sugar, your mood, your bones. Please do not stop. But walking and pumping are two different jobs. Steps keep you generally active. They do not deliver the deep, sustained squeeze that actually empties those lower leg veins. That is why the people I see who walk faithfully and still have cold, swollen feet are not doing anything wrong. They are just missing one specific ingredient. And these 5 movements are that ingredient. Before we get to the movements, I want you to do something with me right now, because it will tell you where you stand today. This is a test you can actually do, and it happens to be one of the simplest predictors of health we have. In 2022, researchers publishing in the British Journal of Sports Medicine followed more than 1,700 adults. They found that people who could not stand on one leg for just 10 seconds had an 84% higher risk of dying in the decade that followed, compared with those who could. And here is the detail that stopped me. It was not rare to fail. By the ages of 71 to 75, more than half of the people tested could not hold it for 10 seconds. More than half. So try it. But be smart about it. Stand next to a kitchen counter or a sturdy chair, with one hand close enough to grab it instantly if you need to. Stand up tall. Lift one foot an inch or two off the floor and see whether you can hold steady for 10 seconds without grabbing on. That is it. Whatever the result, do not judge yourself on it. It is not a grade, it is a starting line. Write down what you managed today and plan to try it again in 4 weeks, because this is exactly the kind of thing these movements improve. And while you are paying attention to your legs, here is a second home check that takes 5 seconds. Press your thumb firmly into the front of your shin, just above the ankle. Hold it there for a slow count of 5, then let go. If the dent stays behind for a few seconds instead of springing back, that is called pitting, and it means fluid has been pooling in that leg. It is worth knowing your baseline so you can notice if it is getting better or worse over the weeks. If there is one moment in this video you should share with your dad or your mom or anyone you love who is over 60, it is this one. Ask them to try it while you are on the phone. Right now. All right, 5 movements. I'm going to give them to you in the order I would actually teach them, starting with the gentlest and safest and building to the most powerful. Each one does something the one before it could not. So let us begin at the bottom of the ladder, The first movement is the ankle pump, and it looks almost too simple to bother with, which is exactly why people skip it. Do not. This is the very movement hospitals have patients do in bed after surgery before they are even allowed to stand, precisely because it keeps blood from pooling and clotting while they heal. It is standard clot prevention, used on millions of patients, and it works for the same reason it will work for you. When you pull your foot up toward you and then push it away, your calf tightens and lets go, and that pumping action wrings out the veins and shifts the blood that has been parked around your ankle. Here is how. Sit with both feet flat on the floor. Draw your toes up toward your shins, heels staying put. Then flip it. Press the toes down and lift the heels, like you are easing onto a gas pedal. Slow, controlled, deliberate. That counts as one. Aim for 20 to 30 of them, 2 or 3 times a day. Now think about how many hours a day you spend sitting, in the car, at meals, in your chair in the evening. Every one of those hours, your second heart is switched off and blood is settling in your feet. Ankle pumps switch it back on without you even standing up. This is also the safest place to start if pain, poor balance, or fatigue keeps you off your feet. The second movement moves up to the bigger muscles in your thigh. It is the seated leg lift, and if you think sitting down makes it easy, your legs will correct you about 10 seconds in. When you straighten your leg out in front of you and hold it there, you fire up the large muscles across the front of your thigh and hip, the exact muscles you use to stand up from a chair, climb stairs, and catch yourself when you start to stumble. And as they fire, they clamp the big veins running up through the thigh and help push that blood on out of the leg. Here is why this matters more than it sounds. Geriatric doctors track something called gait speed, simply how fast you walk. They call it the 6th vital sign, right alongside your pulse and blood pressure. Because how fast you walk predicts your risk of falling, your independence, and even how long you are likely to live. When walking speed slows, it is often one of the earliest signs the body is quietly losing strength. So here is how you build it back. Sit tall in a sturdy chair, back pressed against the backrest, both feet flat. Slowly lift one leg straight out, as straight as is comfortable. Hold for 2 seconds, then lower it slowly without letting it drop. 10 to 15 on each leg. The detail nobody gets right is the back. Keep it pressed against the chair so you cannot cheat with momentum. When it gets easy, loop a light resistance band around your foot, or add a 1 or 2 pound ankle weight. Even that little makes a real difference, and older adults often improve faster than they expect, simply because they are starting from a lower baseline. The third movement trains your circulation and your balance at the very same time, and balance is one of the biggest things that decides whether a person keeps their independence or slowly loses it. This is the supported calf raise. The National Institute on Aging is clear on this point. Keeping your lower body strong is one of the best things you can do to keep getting up from chairs, off the couch, and up the stairs without needing help. And your calves are right at the center of it. Here's how to do it. Stand behind a sturdy chair or at a kitchen counter, hands resting lightly on it for balance. Feet about hip-width apart. Push up onto the balls of your feet, heels climbing as high as feels comfortable. At the top, hold for a beat, 2 or 3 seconds. Chin level and gaze forward, not down at your toes. Then come down under control, counting a slow 3 on the way. That unhurried tempo and that pause up top are where the real work lives. They force your calf and your balance system to cooperate, which is the exact thing your body has to do when it catches you mid-stumble. Start with 10, build toward 20 or 25 over a few weeks. This one movement improves your ankle stability, your circulation, and your reaction speed all at once, without putting hard stress on your knees or hips. The fourth movement takes 1 foot away, and it is the single leg stance hold, the very test you did with me a few minutes ago. Now you know why it belongs in this list, and it is not only about balance. The reason it drives blood is one simple thing: time. The instant you stand on one leg, your calf, ankle, hip, and core all have to contract and keep contracting to hold you up. That sustained squeeze keeps your calf pump running the whole time, pushing blood up instead of letting it settle back into your foot. Ordinary walking never asks for that. You are on one foot for a split second before the next step. Standing on one leg forces the pump to stay on. To practice it, stand next to a counter, one hand resting lightly on it. Shift your weight onto one leg and lift the other foot an inch off the floor. Stand tall, eyes forward, and do not curl your toes to grip. Hold for 20 to 30 seconds, breathing normally. Then switch. 2 sets each side. As it gets easier, rely on your hand less and less until you can hover it just above the counter without touching. That longer, steadier contraction keeps blood moving and retrains your nervous system to react faster when you stumble. And that brings us to number 1, the one I promised at the start: the standing calf pump hold. It looks almost identical to the calf raise from before, with one small change that changes everything: the hold. You rise up onto the balls of your feet, and then you stay there. Here is why that hold is the whole point. Remember, emptying a vein takes a sustained squeeze, not a quick one. A brief contraction barely clears the blood before it flows back. But holding at the top keeps that pump fully squeezed long enough to actually clear the pooled blood out of your ankles and drive it up toward your heart. This is the closest thing you have to a prescription-strength dose of your own second heart. And this is not fringe advice. In 2024, the American College of Cardiology and the American Heart Association made supervised exercise, walking, and calf work to the point of mild discomfort a first-line treatment for peripheral artery disease, on the same level as medication. In their programs, people with poor leg circulation who trained this way walked significantly farther before pain set in, without any drug and without any special equipment. And if that describes you, ask your doctor about a supervised exercise program, because for symptomatic peripheral artery disease, Medicare will often cover it. Here is how to do the hold safely at home. Stand behind a sturdy chair or counter, hands resting lightly for balance, feet hip-width apart. Press up onto the balls of your feet, lifting the heels as far as feels comfortable. This time, park it right there at the top for a full 3 to 5 seconds, breathing the whole time, gaze level. Then float back down over about 3 seconds. Start with 8 to 10, build toward 15 or 20 over time. Never rush it. Because there's no jumping or pounding, this is gentle enough for most people with arthritis or shaky balance, as long as one hand stays on the counter. Now let me make this easy to act on, because I know 5 things can feel like a lot. If you do all 5, wonderful. They take about 12 minutes together. But if you are busy or tired or just getting started, here is how I would rank them. If you can only do one, do this last one, the standing calf pump hold, because the hold moves the most blood. If you can do 2, add the ankle pumps, because you can do those sitting down anytime, and they cover all those hours in the chair. And if you can do 3, add the single leg hold, because that one buys you balance and fall protection on top of circulation. That is your minimum effective dose. Everything above it is a bonus, not a requirement. Now I need to add one thing the original version of this advice always leaves out, because for one group of people, it is the difference between a minor issue and losing a toe. If you are on blood pressure medication, or you have diabetes or high blood sugar, listen closely. Diabetes is one of the top risk factors for peripheral artery disease. And here is the dangerous combination. Poor circulation makes sores heal slowly. High blood sugar can dull the nerves in your feet, so you do not feel a blister, a cut, or a stone in your shoe. Put those together, and a small wound you never noticed can quietly become a deep infection before you feel a thing. So, on top of the movements, I want you to add a 30-second daily foot check. Every evening, sit down and actually look at both feet. The tops, the soles, and especially between the toes. If you cannot see the bottoms, prop a hand mirror on the floor or ask someone. You are looking for anything new. A red spot, a blister, a crack, a sore, a color change. If you find something that is not healing within a few days, that is not a wait-and-see situation. Call your primary care doctor and get it looked at. Catching a foot sore in week 1 instead of week 4 is exactly how people keep their feet. And while we are on warnings, let me draw a clear line. Because I would much rather you stay safe than treat the wrong thing at home. Everything I have shown you today is for chronic, everyday poor circulation. It is not for an emergency. So here is where exercises stop and the phone starts. If you ever get sudden severe pain in one leg, or one leg suddenly turns pale, cold, or numb, that can mean an artery has become blocked, and that is a medical emergency. Do not stretch it, do not walk it off, do not wait until morning. Get seen the same day at urgent care, or if it is severe, go to the emergency room or call 911. Do not drive yourself. And if you have a sore on your foot or ankle that simply refuses to heal, do not try to fix that with movements. That needs a doctor. Knowing the difference between what you can work on at home and what needs help today is not being dramatic. It is how the people who do best actually do best. Let me tell you what this looked like for someone real, or real enough. I will call him Marcus, and he is a blend of several people I have cared for, so no one's privacy is on the line. Marcus was 68, a retired mail carrier in Toledo, Ohio. Walked for decades on the job, still walked every day, and could not understand why his feet were cold every night, even in July, and why his ankles turned to bread dough by dinner. Worse, he had started grabbing the arm of the couch every time he stood up. I told him to stop chasing his step count and give me 12 minutes a day instead. Ankle pumps in his chair with his morning coffee, seated leg lifts, supported calf raises at the kitchen counter, the single leg holds, and the standing calf pump holds to finish. Now I will be honest with you, the way I was with him. His circulation did not become a 30-year-old's overnight, and I would never promise that. But within a few weeks, his ankles were not swelling the way they had. His feet were warmer at night. And the thing that mattered most to him, he told me, was that he no longer felt like he might lose his balance every time he got up off the couch. He felt steady. For a man who had quietly started to fear falling, that changed everything. And the lesson is the whole point of this video. It was never about the miles. It was about the pump. Let me set your expectations honestly, because knowing what is normal keeps people from quitting in week 2. In the first week or so, you will mostly feel your muscles waking up, and maybe a little soreness in the calves. That is fine. That is them working. Somewhere in the 2nd to 4th week is usually when people notice the swelling coming down by evening and their feet staying warmer at night. Balance and steadiness tend to come a little later, over 6 to 8 weeks, because your nervous system needs reps to retrain. None of this is a race, and you do not need to do all 5 perfectly every day. Missing a day does not undo anything. Consistency over weeks is what changes the direction of things, not intensity on any single day. Small, boring, repeated. That is what actually works on circulation. So here is the one pattern to carry out of all of this. Your second heart lives in your calf. Cold feet, swollen ankles, and near stumbles are how it tells you it is slowing down, and you turn it back on not with more steps, but with contraction and, above all, with the hold. If you remember nothing else, remember the countdown in reverse. Ankle pumps to wake the pump up, seated leg lifts to move blood through the thighs, supported calf raises for circulation and balance together, the single leg hold for a long, steady squeeze, and the standing calf pump hold, the one I would choose above all the rest because the hold is where the blood actually moves. And yes, keep walking. Walking is a wonderful habit, and I never want you to stop. It just leaves this one gap, and these 5 movements are what fill it. They take less than 15 minutes a day. They cost nothing, and you can do every one of them at home in front of the television. You do not need to be perfect here. You are looking for the pattern, not a perfect score. So here is your one small step for today. Do that 10-second balance test. Write down what you managed, and then pick just one of the 5 movements and do it once before you go to bed tonight. That is it. If this helped you, and especially if you know someone over 60 with cold feet or swollen ankles, send it to them. Because this is the kind of thing that is far easier to fix early. Take care of your legs. They have carried you this far, and with a few honest minutes a day, they can keep carrying you for a long time yet.